What's going on, everyone? Happy 2020. Everyone's got New Year's resolutions for this year. It's basically a meme at this point that we create these resolutions and that we fail ourselves in 2 months, 1 month, or even 24 hours. But if you're watching this channel and you are subscribed, then you are with me. And when you're with me, we are talking about positive change. We're always growing ourselves, personal development, creating the life that you dream about. And if you're like me, then one of your resolutions, one of your goals for 2020 involves travel, right? Everyone loves travel and taking trips. And since I'm basically a certified globetrotter at this point, at least considering 2019 and how that went, I figured I'd make a video sharing my perspective on taking trips, travel, and how you might be able to improve and enable you to travel more, have greater experiences, have greater memories. But fret not, if you don't like to get out very much or you haven't traveled very much at all, I have been there. If you had talked to me in early 2019, then you would have realized that he doesn't really know much about travel and he's kind of a noob, and we'll get into that. But for now, here are my top tips to trips. Hold on a second. Top tips for trips. I guess I go a little bit too far with alliteration sometimes. The first top tip for trips that I have, and these aren't gonna be in any particular order except this one, this very first one, which is creating a plan. And by a plan, I mean an itinerary and a budget. Now, this might seem kind of lame, right? Part of adventures is being spontaneous, doing stuff and experience things that are out of your comfort zone, overcoming challenges, and a lot of that can come from just going without a plan. I'm gonna try and convince you why you need a plan. The first benefit of creating a plan is the freedom of choice. Now that seems counterintuitive. If you create an itinerary of where you need to be at a specific time, how can you have the freedom of choice? Well, the thing is when you're creating the plan, you choose where you're gonna go, right? You get to do a lot of research. You get to look up places that you wanna visit, and you can spend the time to really think about where you want to go. Spontaneous decisions can be fun and exciting, but they lack the depth of really sitting down and considering what you wanna get out of your travels. What do you really value? Another benefit to creating a plan is that there is less stress in improvising. We've all been there. You got a trip and you're supposed to leave at 10 a.m. and you fell asleep because you stayed up too late worrying, and then you wake up at 8, you have to shower, you have to get everything packed because you waited until the last day to pack, and it's just terrible. I personally leave late anyways, despite having a plan and budgeting. But if you have that plan, I will guarantee that it will reduce the stress that is involved with getting yourself ready for a trip, being on the trip, not questioning whether you need to leave when where you're going, where you're staying, all that stuff. A lot of that stress is gone if you're planning ahead and you don't have to improvise as much. And back to the freedom of choice, your plan and your budget can always change. You're not locked into this one itinerary. You don't have to go to that one place. There's no contract telling you you have to. If you're on the trip and you need a little bit more rest, you can schedule time to leave a little bit later. Or if you want to stay somewhere you really like it, you can forego somewhere else and then stay where you are for another day. You can adjust your plan. That's the beauty of it. And when you have that plan, if you didn't have it, then you would be wondering, oh no, if I stay here another night, am I gonna be able to make it to this thing? Or if I spend a little bit more extra on going out tonight, am I gonna have enough money for the rest of the trip? Having that plan will actually enable you to make more changes as you go. You'll have more flexibility. Another benefit to creating an itinerary and a budget is that it enables you to do more. It enables you to get the most out of your trip as possible. When I was on my Vanlife trip, the first couple weeks were pretty slow. I had friends and I was visiting people and I was trying to work on the film and I was just kind of doing it. I didn't have a plan. When I wanted to leave somewhere, I left, and that was great. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having that freedom, feeling liberated to just do whatever, right? But at some point midway when I was in Texas, I realized that I wanted to see more. No matter how much I wanted this to be my whole life and have as much time as I wanted, I realized that my time was limited. So I created a plan. When I was in Texas, I sketched out an itinerary, and you can see it's quite the menagerie. It's kind of hard to read and things are crossed out and it's everything. And once I created that plan, I was a machine. Because I created that plan, I knew when I wanted to go to bed, when I wanted to arrive somewhere, and I even targeted specific hikes that I wanted to do. And there was about a 10, 11 day span where most of the YouTube videos that I put out for the Vanlife trip was in that period. Canyon de Chelly, Grand Canyon, Zion, those were all in that 10-day period. Out of the 50 days that I traveled for my Vanlife trip, most of those videos came for that one period in which I made a plan. And piggybacking off of that last point, when it's time to go, you'll go. When you make a plan for when you wanna wake up in the morning and when you wanna leave, you're gonna go at that time. I've learned about myself that I always have to set an earlier time because you gotta leave room for packing, getting ready. You gotta leave some extra room there. And when you make a plan, you'll go when you go. And especially if you have other people and you're coordinating with other people, if you set a time that you want to leave, then you will leave at that point. You'll be able to do a lot more. I didn't mention it a whole lot, but a part of the plan is budgeting. Money is one of the biggest factors when it comes to travel. Why people don't do it, why people don't do it more often, why people go for as long as they do and to do the things they do. You have to set what you wanna do for this trip. Do you wanna live really luxuriously, maybe for less time, or do you wanna live really bare bones, $50 a day, and be there for 2 to 3 weeks? Setting that budget, how much you wanna spend on food, how much you wanna spend on travel, entertainment, all of those things will help you figure out where you wanna go, where you should go, and what will fit in that budget. And just like the itinerary, it can be adjusted. If you are halfway through and you're running out of budget, you can adjust it, you can make it bigger, move it around, spending more on food than travel. Having a budget will not only improve the trip that you're on, but it will enable you to do more trips in the future because it'll lessen the impact on your regular life. My number 2 top tip for trips is to travel with other people, preferably 3 to 5. Why is traveling with other people better? Well, the first of which is that everybody shares the cost. Sharing the cost of gas will drastically lower how much money you will spend on your trip. And same with food. If you go to the grocery store, pick up a bunch of snacks, you're gonna share the cost of that. Hotels, if you decide to do in hotels, you can split the hotel room. Traveling with people will lessen the cost. But more importantly, traveling with people will improve the experience that you have. You'll create memories with those people. And overcoming challenges is one of the greatest ways to form bonds with people, improve and strengthen relationships. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of other things that can truly improve a friendship and growing together than traveling with someone. I don't have to sell this very hard. Just find people and surround yourself with people that travel the way you want. is my one caveat, is if you just choose whatever and one person wants to live very luxuriously, go to the Bahamas or whatever and be on the beach, and then you wanna just go hiking in the Smoky Mountains, you might not have such a great time. But that's why you make a plan. Just saying. Number 1 tip. Speaking of hiking, if you choose to go outdoors and hiking and you are a complete noob like I was at the beginning of 2019, I wanna share some mini tips for trips in regards to hiking and being outdoors. So the first tip I would say for hiking is to find trails. There is an app that I use called All Trails. I'm sure there's lots of different websites that you can use to look up different trails in different parks and everything. But when I was traveling down to West Virginia with Brian and Brandon, we did not look up any trails, right? And we just drove to the Great Smoky Mountains. We're like, hikes, come to us. Show yourself to us. We just expected to find stuff to walk. We just thought we could walk through the forest and everything. And I thought I needed all this gear, a big backpack with all this survival equipment. No. Day hikes require shoes, some water, and some snacks, and a trail to find. And you go out and you walk in the wilderness. But the big thing is you have to find the hike. Don't just assume that they'll appear out of nowhere. My number 4 top tip for trips is to manage expectations. There was one trip when I was in high school where we went to New York City for a band and choir or whatever. All my friends, we are complete geeks, right? We love video games and all this stuff, and we heard that Nintendo World in NYC is just there. We didn't hear anything about it. We didn't know anything about it. So as we're there, we're like playing our DSs and everything, and we're like, oh my God, Nintendo World's gonna have all these retro games for us to buy. We can buy NES games and old original Game Boy and N64, or we could buy the consoles. This is gonna be great. We can just do all this stuff. And when we got to Nintendo World, it was nothing like that. It wasn't super disappointing. Like, it was still cool to be in there, have all that nerd stuff right in front of us, but it was nowhere near what we expected. It was completely different. The point of that is that I learned when I was younger to manage expectations. So when you're planning a trip and you're on a trip, it's cool to get excited for things, but also be aware that some bad stuff might happen, some challenges for you to overcome. You know, your car might break down. That's just a part of taking trips. And there are financial ways for you to mitigate the risk in those types of things. But as long as you expect for you to face challenges or things to go wrong or just not go as perfectly as you have ever hoped in dreams, then you're gonna have a good time. I don't expect to go to a resort and be it a paradise, right? That's not really what I'm looking for when I travel. I wanna see new places. I wanna see how other people live, and I want to learn what they're like and what their culture might be, even if it's just Ohio. I'm from Michigan. Even if it's just from Ohio, I wanna talk to those people and discover what more there is to life. That's my perspective on travel. And so when I go, I don't expect a paradise. I don't expect everything to be perfect. I want to experience life and all the different types of life and stripes of life in its full spectrum, from the worst, the hardships, all the way to the best moments. I want that full spectrum. So even if you do want a paradise, I think more so if you want that paradise, expect things to go wrong and roll with it. My number 5 top tip for trips is roll with it. Roll with the adventure. Some of the best moments while you're on your trip, while you're on this grand journey, this adventure, are the hardships, right? Things will go wrong, and that is totally fine. One of my finest memories from this past trip that I took with Rich, Katie, and Nat down to the Smokies in Nashville and everything was when we were leaving the Great Smokies. We stopped at a visitor center. We just needed to go to the bathroom or whatever, and we're in the parking lot. We're ready to go, and I want to pull through this parking spot and to exit. Well, I completely forgot that they had those parking dividers, and I totally jumped right over it. And I mean, metal scraping, everything. I was in this van. This van is not perfect, so things could have easily busted. In the moment, right, I felt all the eyes look at me. It was a full parking lot, and I just wanted to get out of that situation. And the 3 of them, they got out, and they were guiding me. Katie started Snapchatting me. I was like, why are you doing this to me? And she said, well, it's funny, of course. And I was like, yeah, I get it. It's gonna be funny later, but right now it's not funny. The fact that I experienced that, right, with them, that challenge, it's it's really funny that that happened, that I got stuck in a parking lot because I jumped one of those parking dividers. I even have a memento. Nat walked out from the front of the car and handed me this. It's a piece of concrete that I broke off from that parking divider, or whatever you want to call it. I decided to keep it, and it's a reminder of the challenge and the mistakes that were made and overcome as a group. The first night, we got absolutely soaked because we didn't have a rain fly. There was a flood warning, and we woke up, everything was soaked, and we had to solve that, right? And we solved it together, and we overcame that, and that was just so special. So number 5 top tip is to submit to the adventure. Submit yourself to the absurd things that will happen, and those will be the things you remember most. Number 6 top tip for trips is remember those memories by taking pictures, but not too many. By taking pictures, you can immortalize that moment. In 30, 40 years, you can look at a picture and remember the entire trip. When just a moment ago, before you looked at the picture, you probably couldn't remember any details, or maybe didn't remember that you jumped a curb in a parking lot and got stuck. But there's a fine line between taking pictures and then taking too many. For me, again, imposing my perspective and my opinion on travel is when I take a picture, I want it to represent the trip and the adventure and all the hardships and the relationships that I built up and gained from going on that trip. I would suggest refraining from taking too many pictures for vanity or showing off to people. It's definitely cool to get validation, and I fall victim to posting that kind of stuff for validation, but I believe the purest way of taking photos is for the memories, and there's nothing wrong with sharing that, and there's nothing wrong with sharing your lifestyle and using it to inspire people. But if your sole purpose for taking all of those photos is for vanity, and the cost of that is that you're not living in the moment, you're thinking about other people and sharing with other people instead of taking in your surroundings, I think that that cost is too high. My number 7 top tips for trips is to take it all in. A lot can happen while you're on your trip. There's challenges, like I keep saying, and there's ups, there's downs. Take a moment to take it all in. When you get to a new place, see how the trees move, or how the birds sound differently, or how different people act where you are, or what they wear, the local food, right? Take in your surroundings. It's gonna be different from where you come from and what you're used to. And the cool thing about taking it all in is that you learn what you prefer, right? You get to try out all of these different flavors of your environment and the culture, and you get to find out what you really like, and you can take that back with you, right? You can take the pictures, you can take the memories, but you can also take back what you learned and what you like, and you can add that to your life. If you try sushi when you go to Japan, you can come back with that knowledge and you can really get into sushi. It's pretty awesome how learning and experiencing new things can impact your life after. My number 8 top tip for trips is to talk to everybody. Speaking of learning culture and learning how people act and what they prefer, talk to the locals, right? Where you're gonna be, it's gonna be different from where you're from. Even like I said, in Ohio, I love talking with people. And it doesn't have to be an interview. You don't have to sit them down and ask them and drill them for questions. Just having natural chat. If you know United States geography, Michigan is only 2 states away from Kentucky. I mean, Ohio does take like 5 hours to drive through, but Kentucky, how people act, how they speak, how they dress, and what they like is vastly different from Michigan, and that's only 1 state away. And there are many other places on this earth where you can travel a far less distance and get a different culture and a different lifestyle. And I would highly suggest talking to the locals and opening yourself up to what their life might be. And just like the previous point is that you can take that back with you. Or for me, it's almost like last year when I was on my Vanlife trip, I was scouting out for somewhere to move. I love Michigan, but eventually I want to experience more of the world, and traveling to all those different places, talking to as many people as possible, I was able to get feelers for where I might want to move myself. Those were my top tips for trips, but that is my opinion, right? Everybody likes to travel differently. Everyone likes to take vacations differently. For me, I hope that you got a good idea of what I like and what I prefer. I like to go on trips, really bare bones, spend as little money as I possibly can, or more accurately, spread out and stretch my money as far as I can to experience as much as I can. For you, you might want to go tropical and get a little taste of paradise. But these tips can apply to a lot of different preferences. The itinerary and budgeting is almost more important if you're gonna be spending more money, taking in all of your surroundings, taking pictures, talking to locals. All of that stuff can apply to whatever type of travel that you embark on. I wanna hear from you. So if you like traveling, if you've been on a trip and you've learned a little bit, go ahead and share some of that wisdom in the comment section down below for all of us to take in. If you wanna keep learning and growing together, developing the lifestyle that you want to create and helping me develop the life that I wanna create, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to get more content like this. It's a brand new year, 2020. Last year was really good. If you haven't seen my yearly recap, it's up here, and I'm pretty sure that's the right side. It's a new set, I'm getting used to everything. 2020, brand new year, and I'm gonna be continuing what I've been doing, sharing my life, and there's gonna be a lot of awesome stuff that happens this year. I think 2020 is gonna be an even better year. I'm gonna run the marathon, I'm gonna be financially free, I'm gonna be physically fit, and I'm gonna take the trip of my dreams, right? We can talk about that another time. So hit that subscribe button. I'm not gonna say it again, I'm not gonna beg. Hit it if you wanna join all of us on that journey. And I really hope you all have a great rest of your day. Happy 2020, and I'll see you in the next one.